I have discovered the key to making DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine work this season in Sacramento. And it made me even more worried about this upcoming season. Big Dave, who covers the Chicago Bulls for the CHGO podcast, joins me to share what that key is. And Kings fans, I think this episode's going to make you even a little more nervous than you already are. Let's get into it right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all offseason long. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. And my guest on this podcast is someone that I've quickly grown to just in a bro NBA podcast way, guys. Just love. Big Dave is awesome. Anytime I want to have any sort of conversation that remotely involves the Chicago Bulls, Big Dave is the first guy I call. He does a phenomenal job covering the Chicago Bulls for the CHGO Bulls podcast on the CHGO network in Chicago. He was the former host, or one of the former hosts, of the Locked On Bulls podcast before going over to CHGO. His personality is infectious. His basketball knowledge is through the roof, and he deeply cares about those Bulls as much as I care about the Sacramento Kings. So being able to talk to him is always a treat. And I said, okay, I've got to have him back on because I wanted to talk to him about like what led to Zach LaVine getting the massive contract that he has that the Kings are now paying, and like what mistakes did the Chicago Bulls make with LaVine that the Kings can learn from and hopefully not make the same mistakes or can get on top of now that they're going into a full season of LaVine here in Sacramento, or at least we expect LaVine to be here all season long. And as you're going to hear, the conversation takes a turn as we start talking about the point guard position and how essential the point guard position is to making all of this chaos in Sacramento work. Now, this isn't the first time this has been brought up because we've talked a lot about how the only time DeRozan and LaVine were successful was when Lonzo Ball was healthy in Chicago. So it's not a new concept, but as you're going to hear Dave and I discuss the importance of the point guard position, what the Kings need from that position in order for LaVine and DeRozan to be successful here in Sacramento this upcoming season, and the realities of the fact that the Kings are putting all of that pressure on Dennis Schroeder as the only point guard really on this roster right now. So please enjoy and feel free to respond at any time to my conversation with Big Dave from the CHGO Bulls podcast. Last time I talked to Big Dave, we were all reeling and recovering from the chaos of the NBA trade deadline. And we talked about Zach LaVine becoming a Sacramento King as part of the three-team trade. Also talked about Kevin Huerter going over to the Chicago Bulls. But now I got Big Dave back in the offseason because now we're getting ready for the first of what we expect to be at least 2 full seasons of Zach LaVine here in Sacramento. And while the argument of is Domantas Sabonis the best player, is DeMar DeRozan the best player here in Sacramento, while it's a fair argument, I think offensively a lot of us expect Zach LaVine to be at least the go-to option on offense for the Sacramento Kings. Big Dave here to help answer some questions about LaVine's time in Chicago and what the Kings can learn and apply to now LaVine's time in Sacramento. Dave, welcome back, my friend. I hope the offseason is treating you well. I hope I imagine you're as desperate as I am for actual basketball to come back. But thanks for being willing to talk a little more Zach LaVine with me.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, you know how I feel about you, MG. So whenever you call, yes, the answer is yes. And Yeah, I just came back off of vacation last week. I was gone for 2 weeks. And what I like to do when I go on vacations is I literally unplug like from everything. And yeah, I just disappear. And that's what I did. I disappeared and I don't tell anybody where I'm going. Tell anybody what I'm doing. I just disappear. And that's what I did for 2 weeks was just get out of here, disappear, get away from basketball and just everything like that. And yeah, get just back in touch, you know what I'm saying, with basically life, basically myself. And then I came back last week and I was like, okay, now basketball, give me all of it, hand it all to me. I'm ready for all this basketball. However, what team, give it to me now. So yes, I am definitely back and ready, excited to get into the season.
The way you described your vacation is exactly what I imagined the entire Kings roster from last season had to do with how chaotic last season was. They're like, I'm getting away. I'm not even thinking about that organization. I'm getting out of Sacramento. I don't want nothing to do with the Kings with how that season went. But now we're coming back together. Doug Christie's the full-time head coach, Scott Perry, the new general manager, and Zach LaVine, for better or for worse, like it might be harsh or unfair to say the Kings are kind of stuck with. And it starts with the contract that the Kings acquired. So many people judge Zach LaVine here in Sacramento based off of two parameters that really have nothing to do with basketball. It's that they traded De'Aaron Fox to go and get him and the amount of money that he's making. Well, the Kings decided to trade De'Aaron Fox, but the Bulls were the ones that decided to give Zach LaVine that contract, and he's going to be paid almost $100 million by the Sacramento Kings over the next 2 seasons. Ooh. Take me back to when the Bulls offered LaVine that contract. Was it like, why? Was it worth it? And we can't judge the player for signing the dotted line on what a team was willing to give him, but like, what was the reasoning behind that hefty of a contract for LaVine at the time?
Okay. So I would say, well, part of the reasoning, well, a major part of the reasoning was AK and Mark Eversley envisioned Zach as being the guy. And one, that's what, honestly, at the time, that's what the market kind of dictated what Zach LaVine's contract was going to be. So it was really just one of those circumstantial things, like this year and the way, you know, you see what is going on with free agents this year and things like that. It would be a little bit different, obviously. But at that time, that is exactly what the market dictated for Zach LaVine. Was it hefty? Without doubt. Did I think he deserved it? Yeah, I did. And the reason I felt that way was sitting and watching what that dude went through all these years here in Chicago, being the face of the team, being a model citizen, being a professional, showing up playing injured. I remember being in the locker, or not in the locker room, but standing in the back in the hallway where the locker room was for the Bulls, and Zach wasn't even playing that night. He comes in limping, and I'm like, I looked at him, I was like, dude, what are you doing here? He was like, got to support my team, man. Got to support my team. And I'm like, but you can't walk like that. Like, you can go home, bro. And nope, he wanted to be there for the team. He is that kind of person and that kind of player. So they thought he was going to be the guy. And that's what the number dictated it was going to be. And they also envisioned a longer tenure with a guy like DeMar DeRozan, with a thinking Lonzo Ball. And remember, at this time, it wasn't really completely clear about Lonzo Ball. So they thought Lonzo Ball would come back and they would continue on, you know, what we saw them do in the first half of the season when they first got DeMar DeRozan and they first got Lonzo Ball and Vooch was in the mix. So they thought they were going to be, you know, competing for the playoffs. That's what their mindset was. Did not happen like that at all. And when they started to try to trade him, that's when the hefty amount really started kicking them in the butt. And they tried to trade him the previous season. No teams wanted to take him. They were like, why? We will wait a year and then deal with it then. So, yeah, it came back to bite them really, really tough. But I thought Zach deserved it at the time. It absolutely looks much bigger right now for the type of player that he is. But at that time, yeah, I had no problem. And I really don't have any problem with an NBA player getting his money.
Well, there's absolutely no question that LaVine is supremely talented on the offensive end. And we could argue he's coming off of his best season of his career statistically.
Yeah.
I mean, he shot lights out last season. In the very limited time, Dave, that he was in Sacramento last year, the final third of the season, he had a number of just monster offensive performances and red hot quarters where it's just like, this dude's unbelievable on the offensive end of the ball. But he very clearly, and he's not alone in this, but he very clearly has a reputation or a label around the league, or at least a question mark when it comes to being a winning player. He puts up these numbers. He has this unbelievable offensive ability, but does it translate to winning basketball games? And that's a question that was literally asked on a podcast by the now current general manager of the Kings, Scott Perry. When Scott was working for the Kings, he said those exact words on the podcast, like, question how much Zach LaVine actually impacts winning. Is that fair? Why do you think that is? What is it that keeps Zach LaVine, from all the time that you watched him in Sacramento, that keeps him from people confidently believing that he is a winning basketball player?
Well, let me tell you this, Matt. One of my, and I don't even like saying this because I'm not a bragging kind of guy, but one of my the biggest things that I've done, I'll say it like that, was I found a stat about Zach LaVine that kind of went everywhere after I found it. But I found out that Zach LaVine, to that point, before DeMar DeRozan got there, had not won 4 games in a row in his career. And once that came out, it kind of went everywhere. It actually reached Zach LaVine, who was with Team USA at the time. And that was really cool to see. And it went on ESPN. It kind of exploded, which was, pretty cool. Shout out to Ricky O'Donnell for helping that. But yeah, he hadn't to that point won 4 games in a row. So to call him not a winning player is accurate. It's incredibly accurate. He won his first 4 games in a row the minute DeMar DeRozan and Lonzo Ball got here. They won the first 4 games of the season. So they erased and eliminated that immediately. So him not being a winning player, I have no problem with people saying that at all, because your record indicates it. Now, there are other things that come into it for sure. The team that he had, the coaching that he had, and the front office he was dealing with at the same time. Like, all of that plays into it. Zach LaVine, in my opinion, is not a number 1 guy. You know what I mean? He's not just not that. He is a number 2 for sure. If he's the second best player, I've always said, if he's the second best player on your team, you have a good team. If he's the third best player on your team, you have a great team. So if Zach LaVine is going to be the guy and you're going to be that dependent on him in that way, that's going to be a struggle, because Zach really, and I'm sure you all have seen it, Zach struggles, especially dribbling the basketball. Sometimes he can go really, really cold, get really, really stagnant. He doesn't draw a lot of fouls. He didn't draw a lot of fouls here in Chicago. He still, I don't know if he's, kind of quailed that with Sacramento, but that wasn't the case here in Chicago. For me, that's winning player stuff. Like, you get those kind of calls when you're that number 1 guy. DeMar DeRozan never had a problem drawing a foul and getting those calls. That's just what it went for him. But then Zach would explode on certain points. He would score 40. He would score 50. He would get incredibly hot from the 3-point line. He had a couple of seasons where he had a 50, 40, 80 seasons. Like Zach LaVine, and when I say 80, I mean like 85. Like, Zach LaVine is an incredible and really great basketball player, but his record will tell you he's not a winning player, and I'll agree with that. And again, before he got to Chicago, he was with Minnesota. Minnesota wasn't a winning team either at that point in time. So Zach LaVine being brought in to Chicago to be the guy on a team that didn't have that kind of talent. And when they finally did get some actual talent, you saw some winning happen, but you saw his role decrease. That's how it works with Zach LaVine. Like, you can't be dependent on him being that number 1 guy. But if he's going to be your 2 or your 3, which I think is way more perfect for him to be at the 3, the third option, I mean. But if he's going to be your 2, you'll be a good team. But it's going to be some struggles that's going to come with that too, because as you've seen, and I'm sure you've seen, that defense isn't going to be great. Like, guys are going to get around him for sure. That's not going to be an awesome thing for him. And a lot of people have had questions about his IQ. and things like that on the floor defensively. Offensively, outside of the dribbling part, which is a huge part, but outside of that, Zach can get his own shot. He can make it look super easy out there on the floor sometimes. Like basketball just looks easy to him sometimes. And other times, it just doesn't look that way.
Like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of Locked On Kings is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. No one wants that, right? That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or even on the go on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does all the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smarter categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can identify how much money is actually going to your savings. If your savings is growing at the rate that you need it to or want it to grow at, it also helps you maximize any investments that you might have. There's so many tools that makes Monarch Money perfect for you. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Visit use monarchmoney.com. Use code LOCKEDONNBA in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. Dave, I'm physically clenching right now, and every Kings fan listening to this is shaking their head or having the same visceral reaction because the way you just described LaVine as not being a number one guy, but being a great number two, that's how you could describe half of this freaking Kings roster. And like the big three, or what people calling the mid three here in Sacramento of Sabonis and LaVine and DeRozan, you can say the same thing about all three of them. And out of those three, I talked about this on the podcast earlier this offseason. It's like Zach LaVine has to be the guy here in Sacramento out of those three because the DeRozan, as good as he is, he's 36, 37 years old. He's very, very gifted in one specific area. He can be your go-to guy in the clutch if you want to. But it's past that time for him to be your number one. Domantas Sabonis, probably out of the three, has the best chance of making All-NBA and being an all-star because of the numbers that he puts up. But Domantas Sabonis' first impulse is not to score the basketball. It's to pass. It's to find the open man, which is valuable if it's a number two or a number three, but not as a number one guy. So the Kings are looking at, and this is the most agonizing part about this season that I'm preparing myself for going into next year, Dave, is you have just this roster of players that are supremely talented, but not at all cohesive because there's not an anchor. And ultimately, you traded away your anchor in De'Aaron Fox, and there's fair questions about De'Aaron Fox too. You traded him to San Antonio to be a number two guy for Victor Wembanyama. You have this plethora of talent with no centerpiece to build around. So that's why I feel like, Dave, this experiment in Sacramento is just doomed to fail. You want to call it Chicago Bulls West? Fine, be my guest. But maybe Dennis Schroeder could be the point guard for DeRozan and LaVine that a healthy Lonzo Ball was for a year in Chicago. Like, I'm a sinking ship over here, Dave, thinking about how to make this sucker work. I don't know if you can patch the holes or if you're going to go down with me. Help me out here.
Oh, we'll go down with the band, friend. Like, that's just what it's going to be. I'll say yes. Oh man, I'll say this, and I've said this several times over the course of Zach's tenure with the Bulls. Is Zach LaVine needs a point guard. Like, if Zach LaVine doesn't have a point guard or somebody to facilitate and to point out and tell you exactly where you need to go and where you need to be, and because Zach is really good on catch and shoot. Like, his catch and shoot numbers were astronomical when he was here. Like, it is really crazy. So he's got that part of his game. So he wasn't allowed to expose that here in Chicago a lot because they didn't have a great point guard, to find him the ball and get him the basketball, which is why I was excited he was going to Sacramento because you all had De'Aaron Fox. I was like, okay, cool. This is going to work. These guys, this is going to be cool. And then when you traded him, I was like, uh-oh. I was like, uh-oh. I don't know how this is going to look.
The Kings have one point guard on their roster, and they had to sign him to a 3-year deal in Dennis Schroeder. That's it.
My gosh.
That's the only point guard they have on their roster.
Well, man. And what's funny is the Bulls have a plethora of point guards on their roster right now. And I'm happy to give y'all some, like, for real. I'm happy.
Should we just combine?
We should.
Just make
Let our
Bulls
powers combine.
Who cares? Let's make a super team or a mid team, I guess. I don't know.
At least a playoff team. I think you found them both will at least go to the playoffs in the East.
In the East.
We're going
in the East. Yeah. The Kings will gladly come East. Well, okay. So there's got to be something from what happened in Chicago with LaVine, and you can even include DeRozan in this if you want, that the Kings can learn from, right? What mistake did the Bulls make? And it could just be the point guard conversation, but what mistake did the Bulls make to not maximize Zach LaVine? Because again, he's supremely talented. There's something there that you can use to win basketball games. Like if you're like an advisor to the Kings and going, yo, the Bulls made the mistake, just don't make this mistake with LaVine and I guess by proxy DeRozan. What would it be?
Well, here in Chicago at that time when we had DeMar DeRozan, who was, the clear number one guy, and I loved DeMar DeRozan and his tenure here, but DeMar DeRozan was the black hole. You know what I mean? And rightfully so. You give him the basketball, he's going to the paint, he's going to get buckets, or he's getting to the line. Yep. That was the Bulls' offense. And that was it. And the other, let me tell you how bad it was for the Bulls' offense. It was that and Andre Drummond rebounds. That's what our offense was. I'm serious. That's what the offense was. It wasn't, getting guys set up because nobody could really create, at that time, because Zach was dealing with an injury. Nobody could really create for the team. And even when Zach was back, you could see sometimes where he didn't know where he needed to be. He didn't really understand what his role was. This is early on. He didn't really understand his role, what it was going to be. And some things he would just force. And when Zach forces things, it's never good. It's going to be a turnover. It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a bad shot. It's going to be him complaining, to the officials. You can tell when Zach is forcing. It's going to be that turnover, him dribbling it off his foot. It's going to be him stepping out of bounds on the baseline, something he did numerous times here in Chicago. Every year we would set our watch to it and watch him do it. But I would say the mistake that was made was not shoring up, again, that point guard position for the team. They didn't have anybody who could run the team and just simply be the general. And you don't have to be the point guard like a Russell Westbrook where you're averaging 30 or 25. You just need somebody who can set the offense, somebody who can get everybody to where they need to be and make sure everybody eats. Because DeMar DeRozan wants to eat, and he needs a point guard that understands that. Zach LaVine needs to eat, and he needs a point guard that understands that. So those are the things that have to happen. So can Dennis Schroeder do that? I don't know. I haven't seen him do that throughout his career to be that kind of guy. But, guys are different in the EuroLeague because I watch him do it for Team Germany. But we'll see if he'll do it for Sacramento. But, man, you guys have got to get a point guard that can run the offense, man. I think if you get that, you'll shore up a lot of things.
Dave, you have the chance to terrify me here. Are you saying that Dennis Schroeder might be the most important piece for the Sacramento Kings next season? Is that what you're telling me? And no disrespect to Dennis Schroeder. He's balling out in EuroLeague right now, by the way. And I'm excited about Dennis Schroeder here. But what I'm hearing is the point guard position, which we already know is one of the most important positions in the NBA. Apparently, the Kings just don't think it matters that much. But you're telling me that in order to make any of this work, it all falls on essentially, as of now, Dennis Schroeder and maybe Russell Westbrook if they bring him in.
And maybe Russell Westbrook if you bring him in. Yes, that's honestly what I'm saying. And I mean, that's what you have to look at for the Bulls, man. Like, just look at what they did when Lonzo went down. They tried Kobe there. Kobe is not a point guard like that. Like, Kobe is definitely a shooter. He's definitely a creator, an awesome basketball player, but he is not a pure point guard like that. Ayo Dosunmu, they tried. He's more of a combo guard. Right. You can even cheat with him at the three. But even though he played a great point guard in college, obviously the pros is a little bit different. If you look at his numbers in the second year of his career, when he started at the point guard position, his numbers dropped drastically. Now, that could be just that 2-year itch, that rookies have when teams are figuring you out. But he didn't look the same. And when he moved on to his third season, when he wasn't the point guard and he was just floating back to being himself, he was much, much better. who else they bring? They just brought in guys who didn't fit that role as far as a facilitator setting the team up and who teams have to fear. I used to cry myself to sleep at nights thinking about Mike Conley on this team and how much I wanted Michael Conley Jr. to be the point guard of the Chicago Bulls, because I was like, this is a perfect fit. They have to have somebody who can set it up. They have to have somebody who can run it and be the general, to calm everything down, to make sure DeMar gets his touches, to understand when Zach LaVine is kind of not involved in the game, where he's just going and standing in the corner and not involving himself in the game. You need that point guard. When Lonzo was at his peak, all of them were eating. And DeMar DeRozan had no problem eating. And Zach LaVine had more alley-oop dunks than I had ever seen him have here in Chicago. So, and then what happened? They go to the All-Star game. He becomes an All-Star. Like, that's what happened. Like, these things happen. And Zach LaVine needs that. He needs somebody to take that onus off of him. I have always said, and I've said this on your show, that a great point guard removes thinking. You don't think, you react. And that is what a great point guard does. That's why I loved Lonzo Ball so much, because guys didn't have to think about it. They knew where they needed to be. They didn't have to worry about if they were getting the ball, because Lonzo was looking for everybody. He's going to make sure everybody touched the basketball. And because, like they say, the ball has energy, and everybody needs to touch that energy right there. But if you don't have that point guard that can facilitate, that's more concerned with getting their numbers, that isn't great as far as understanding scheme, whose IQ isn't as super high, you're going to struggle when you have a guy like Zach LaVine. DeMar is going to get it. Like, that's not going to be a problem. He's going to score, as I'm sure you know. He's going to have amazing nights, like consistently have amazing nights for the team. But Zach is going to struggle a little bit more. It'll be more sporadic. At times, you'll think he should be an all-star. At other times, you'll say, oh, man, dude, we paid what for this guy? Like, it's going to be like that, you know, Zach, until you get that point guard. Now, if Sabonis can kind of be that, we'll see, because you say he's more of a pass, which he is. You're right. He's more of that pass-first kind of guy. But I don't know what your interior is looking like, because you're going to need him down low. He's going to need to get these buckets and these baskets. We kind of tried that with Vooch here, and Vooch struggled, you know, with that here, because one, Vooch was used to being the number one option on his team. This was new for him to be a number 3 option, and sometimes in the 4th option. That was brand new for him. So his game kind of struggled. Sabonis is kind of used to being a number 2. He isn't really used to being the man. So he's used to being that number 2. So he might understand facilitation a little bit better when he's not the primary target. So maybe you can cheat, you know what I'm saying, put a Band-Aid on with that a little bit and see how that goes. But you've got to find a facilitator, man, and a general for your team to make this engine go.
Dave, I love you. This conversation's giving me anxiety. It's giving me genuine anxiety about next season with the Kings' utter lack of really point guard duties. There's so much on the shoulders of Dennis Schroeder. And again, I'm rooting for Dennis. I do think there are elements of Schroeder that Kings fans are really going to like in terms of the attitude and the speed and the fire that he plays with. But Schroeder's bounced around the league, and to suddenly expect him to become the key to the success of this DeRozan, Sabonis, LaVine experiment in Sacramento, boy, that just seems like a massive ask. Well, let me ask you this.
Okay.
The trade deadline, this upcoming trade deadline, I think a lot of people are going to have their eyes on, because where the Sacramento Kings are at that point, and do they pick a direction? It seems like the Kings are kind of stuck in this. We have these big contracts. We have these players that we can't really move, especially in a scared money offseason where nobody wants to spend. So we're kind of stuck right now. But maybe at the trade deadline, you can convince a contender, hey, DeMar DeRozan's right here. I don't think you're going to be able to get rid of Zach LaVine because of his contract. The Kings are literally the only team, I guess, willing to trade for him in that contract. Yay.
Correct.
Go
Thank
Sacramento.
You for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Happy to help relieve your financial stress. In California,
we still stressed over here, bro. Don't worry about it. We still super stressed.
We're stressed with a state income tax, so we're uber stressed over here in California.
You don't want to get into that with us, bro. Our income is crazy.
It's crazy. We'll struggle together.
Yes, sir.
Take the financial conversation. Like, say DeRozan and LaVine were making the same amount of money, and the Kings are at a point at the trade deadline where they can move on from one of them. They have to pick one of the two to keep. If you were again, keeping their age in mind and everything, the type of players they were. If you were to pick, if it's maybe even a schoolyard pick for you, Dave, you were to pick one or the other, DeRozan or LaVine, which one would you choose?
Oh, schoolyard, I'm taking DeRozan. Like, yeah, we running a 5-on-5 or 3-on-3. Give me DeMar DeRozan every day. Like,
ISO.
Yeah, man, for real. Like, he getting the ball all the time. Like, there you go, down, go to work. But as far as the NBA is concerned, like, I think the question is, what is your team trying to do? Are you trying to make the playoffs, or are you trying to just kind of start over? And
we don't know.
Yeah, well, Zach LaVine is used to we don't know. Zach LaVine was here in Chicago. He is used to I don't understand what's going on, but I'm just gonna play. How about that? So I would do for the age factor and for the fact that you guys don't know what you're going for. I would stick with Zach LaVine, and let DeMar go, because DeMar does he have 1 year left on his deal?
Yeah, so 1 year, but it's partially guaranteed. Partially guaranteed.
Right.
So.
Right. Understand. So looking at just the age of it and knowing where DeMar DeRozan and how he wants to be, DeMar DeRozan wants to win. Like, he's at the point of his career where it's about winning for him right now. And he went to, we traded him there to Sacramento. It was part of that. Like, him going back home was a part of that for sure. But at that time, what you guys had set up looked, mighty tasty. And it was like, man, like, let that man eat. And then things changed out of nowhere.
And he had the worst season of his career in terms of what he experienced in Sacramento. Hey, welcome to the Kings.
So I would go with Zach, because unfortunately he's used to that. And sadly, he's understanding of that. But, being a younger guy and having a couple of years left, on his contract, gives you a little more, leeway about figuring out what you want to do and who you want to keep and, how you want to kind of move forward as a squad. So it gives you a little more flexibility in that sense, because DeMar is not going to sit around and be okay, with it. He's gonna raise a fuss, like, 'cause he's like, what are we doing? We trying to win or not? Get me out of here if you're not trying to win. I want to go play basketball and do that. So Zach is a little more, content is a strong word, and I don't want to say that, but he's a little more okay with it, because he's dealt with it before. Now, I will say this is just speculation. This is just how I'm seeing it. I'm not speaking for Zach LaVine. This is just how I'm looking at things. And Zach will definitely deny all of this, and he should, because he's an NBA player who's a 2-time All-Star. Like, he understands what winning is. He's got a gold medal, for God's sakes. But it's just the fact that I think he knows what this is, and he understands what it's been through. So he's not going to be happy about it. He's not looking forward to it or anything like that, but he'll do what he does, and he'll score. And, he'll may have some exciting times there at Sacramento. He'll light the beam a couple of times for you guys, for sure. But DeMar DeRozan is the guy you bring in when you're about to win, or you're trying to really take that step towards winning. So if that's not going to be the case, then I'm going to stick with Zach LaVine.
Well, I'm depressed. This is great. Can't wait for October.
Welcome,
Dave.
Welcome to Bulls Nation, sir. Like, this is how it is.
Hey, let me ask you this real quick before we wrap up. I want to go back to a night that was depressing for Kings fans, but I actually quite enjoyed. It was when the Bulls came to Sacramento, and Kevin Huerter embarrassed the Sacramento Kings. And I immediately after the game, I'm like, I'm going and I'm finding Kevin, and I'm talking to Kevin, and I'm right there next to him. And I had a good relationship with Kevin from his time here in Sacramento. Really enjoyed him. First thing I asked him, hey, is this a revenge game? And a lot of players go, no, it's just another game. Like, well, he's like, yep, absolutely, it's a revenge game. You're 100% right. It was. That felt really, really good. Like, Kevin did not hide the fact that he was going at the throats of the Sacramento Kings that night. What was the Bulls and Bulls fandom's reaction, not just to that game that he had, but those quotes and what he said afterwards, and him kind of giving the middle finger to the Kings in a way?
I remember those quotes because he was serious. He talked about it. He said that he was thinking about it in the previous game, that he was thinking about this game, and he couldn't wait to come play.
He looked me in the eye when he said it. I was like, okay, he for real.
He for real. You're like, it's no jokes, man. And yeah, I remember him, seeing him that game. I think he had just got a haircut or something like that. So I was like, oh, okay. He went back home. I was like, uh-oh, y'all. Like, Kevin Huerter might have a game today. Like, he got a fresh fade? Okay. He might have a game today, bro. And he had a game. So it meant something to him. Being a Bulls fan, we're used to getting guys from other teams. So we've seen this before. I remember when Lonzo had that game against the Lakers, when the Bulls blew the Lakers out the gym, and Lonzo went crazy that game. Like, he was just hitting all kinds of threes. So we're used to seeing guys have that. When Zach's first game, I remember against Minnesota, he had a game like that. I think he had 30 plus, and Jimmy Butler had like 30 plus, but the Bulls ended up winning at the last second because of Zach LaVine. So that was a big deal for Zach too. So watching Kevin Huerter do that was like, oh, red velvet. Like, I remember you. like I remember this guy. He was in Atlanta. I did a recent article for all CHGO where I gave Bulls players grades, but I did it in albums. And I'll send it to you. And I did it in pure albums. And for Kevin Huerter, the album I chose was Aerosmith, Done with Mirrors. And the reason I chose that album was because right before Joe Perry had left the band, like Steven Tyler wasn't doing great, with the drug issues and things. And then Joe Perry came back, with their bassist. They came back and they immediately got better. And Done with Mirrors was definitely a good album, but the next album they had was a smash, and it set them up. But they had to get back, to what they like. That's what Kevin Huerter was to me, because you saw him in Atlanta, and he did his thing. And then when he went to Sacramento, it just wasn't a comfortable situation for him. Like, it wasn't a good fit. Like, I didn't recognize him at all. So I wasn't excited about the trade when it happened, just based off of what I saw in Sacramento. But when he got here, and it's a more free-flowing offense here. And that's what Kevin Huerter kind of thrives at. And Billy Donovan gave him, as I called it, the greenest light in America. Like, Kevin Huerter got the green light when he was here, and he took full advantage and his best season since he got traded to Sacramento. So I'm not surprised, though, at all that he had that game. I'm very happy for him. I was happy to hear those comments come out of him. And we'll see if it continues for the Bulls this season. And if he continues it when he goes back to Sacramento and he has that game again, man. And I hope you get another chance to talk to him, hopefully after he, has another incredible game against you guys. But maybe Zach has that game as well. We don't know. But a lot is going to be on the line for me and you, friend, when that game happens. Not as far as a win or a loss, just seeing what guys, are going to ball out for our respective teams.
Well, you know what, Kevin Huerter, get in line. You can come to Sacramento, embarrass the Kings. Then De'Aaron Fox and the Spurs will come to Sacramento, embarrass the Kings. Then Mike Brown's New York Knicks will come to Sacramento and embarrass the Kings. It's going to be great. Just get in line for anybody who wants to come to Sacramento in their own building. I can't wait this year. I'm sure it's going to be wonderful to experience from the Kings' perspective. Hey, I will say this, Dave. Huerter was nasty for the Kings his first year. Like, he shot lights out. Then he made the 3-point contest in Salt Lake City, Utah, had a horrendous 3-point contest that he literally never recovered from in his time in Sacramento. He never recovered from that moment. And then the Kings kind of screwed that up too. But hey, I'm rooting for him in Chicago, rooting for the Bulls. Hey, if any of these two teams have a chance to make the playoffs, I guess it's the Bulls because it's in the Eastern Conference. So good luck to you. We'll figure out how to afford LaVine's contract over the next couple of years, maybe launder some money a little bit or figure something out. I don't know, man. This was
a Kawhi and Steve Ballmer situation to see what happens.
You delivered some of the most depressing news of this podcast over the off season, but you did it with a smile, and I love you so much that I still enjoyed it. But
my man,
where do I go from here, man? Like, what do we do? This is going to be
man. It's going to be a really interesting year. I do like the fact you all have Sabonis. I like the fact you guys got Keegan Murray. That's a huge thing because we don't have that here at all. Wow. Is that kind of player. So that's going to be big for y'all. But having DeMar and having Zach, and we'll see what Dennis Schroeder does. If he can fill in for a little bit, and you still have time to get a point guard For sure. You still have time. If you get a Russell Westbrook, it can work out for you. It could. A Russell Westbrook could work out for you.
We'll do an open tryout for all people 6'2" and under in Sacramento to come out to just see, can you dribble the basketball and pass to Zach LaVine? If so, we got a $100,000 contract for you.
Can you like the beam?
Yeah, can you just hit the button? Dave, I appreciate you, man. Good luck this season. No, it won't be the last. Before the Kings and Bulls play and Huerter's return to Sacramento, we'll do this again, or maybe afterwards,
Absolutely.
so you can just laugh at me for 30 minutes. We'll see how it goes.
No, man, never that. But definitely we'll have you on the show for sure, on our show, man. And always a pleasure talking to you, friend.